I had low standards for most of my life. I spent the better part of my 20s living in this. I did this throughout my teenage years, maybe even as a kid to some extent. My goal was to always keep the bar as low as possible so that you could not expect too much of me and I could not disappoint myself or anybody else. If the bar's on the ground, you can't be upset with me when I don't meet the bar. That's where I've kept it. And I did this intentionally, and I weaponized this for a really long time. I was more scared of succeeding than I was of failing for most of my life, but I wouldn't tell you that. I know for Paige, I would get really sobby and sad every time she would challenge me, and I would say something like, what happens if I don't succeed? What happens if I fail? Which is kind of silly because I know what would happen if I didn't succeed or fail. I would figure it out, or I would just go back to living the way that I was living. What was really going on underneath the surface was that I was scared of committing to a new way of life. Once I had risen the bar and once you saw that I was capable, I now had to hold myself accountable to that level. And you could hold me accountable to it as well. Accountability is a scary thing in that regard. And there's some comfort in keeping the bar super low. That's kind of what I want to talk about today. I have been struggling to record this episode for the entire day. I have literally been sitting in the studio for 10 hours. Usually I knock episodes out one take and I go about my day. Today, for whatever reason, I am just not here. It's because I've got 3 or 4 ideas and every time I start to record, they start to overlap and I'm going to do my best to not do that. I'm going to stick one at a time. But it does mean that I've got some episodes in the bank, which is great. And I've got a really awesome episode with Paige that we're going to record that we just went through. But today I want to talk about standards, what they mean, why they're important, why we have to hold ourselves to standards, and why we should allow other people to hold us to standards. Man, I spent more time than I can count and remember, I know that Paige did too, arguing over the bar. The bar. Paige has always had unrelenting standards, and I've admired her for it. She never apologized for those standards. She had a standard for honesty, for integrity, for showing up, for what it was to be a husband and a father and a man. And I credit me, the way I am today, for that unrelenting standard. And I don't want spouses or partners to get twisted and think that it is your standard that is going to save someone else's life, but it could. The worst thing that happens is that you're going to be okay with that standard. I think it's really tough to look at your life and think about where we could be if we would just commit to something. I know that I did this for a really long time. I was on a podcast about a year ago, maybe 6 months. I can't remember exactly. It was like a panel podcast about recovery and sobriety. And we talked about fear. And fear is a really common topic in recovery. Underneath a lot of emotions, believe it or not, fear is it's hiding in the corner. You got to get a flashlight on it and be like, oh, it's fear. It's not anger. There's fear underneath there. It's not sadness exactly. It's a fear. And these are kind of secondary emotions downstream from fear. But we were talking about fear, and we talked about why is it that very few people ever really commit to recovery. And my experience was that I never really committed because I had a fear that I knew what would happen when I committed. And that's that I would figure it out. And I think that most people are this way. I really do. I think that we tell ourselves these lies, that we're scared that we'll fail, that we're never going to be better. But I think you and I both know that you're capable of some amazing things. The people that I've met in treatment centers are some of the most amazing people that I've ever come across. People that struggle with addiction have some very, very special attributes that the average person doesn't have. They are amazingly resilient people, super tough. They can deal with failure like nobody else because they're up against it all the time. You've probably tried to quit on your own 1,000 times and you failed and you're still going. Look at you. You're still going, right? Maybe we're not where we want to be yet, but you're still going. They have a high pain tolerance. They are incredibly high agency. They can make things happen when they set their minds to it. They can grind, they can hustle, they can outwork 10 people. You will work your ass off, you will grind. You and I both know that when you fully commit to something, great things happen. Great things happen. And in thinking about my life before recovery, I knew what it would mean for me to commit to recovery. I knew what my life would have to look like. I just didn't want to fuck with it. I didn't want to do all that stuff. I didn't want to commit to that life. It was a lot of upkeep. And then if I did that, I would also show everyone around me what I was actually capable of. And then I would be held to that standard in all areas of my life. And I think underlying a lot of this stuff is that fear right there. It's that fear. It's the fear that we now have to put forth effort when we're used to just getting by with the bare minimum. We're used to getting by with what's comfortable. And there is a comfort crisis in the world, in this country. There's a comfort crisis. We trade what is comfortable for what is best for us in so many ways. This applies to people who are struggling to get sober. If you're someone like me, this applies to spouses and partners, all the same. We're going to run through every bit of this today. But first, hey, SoberLink's been a sponsor of the show for a while, but I think this is actually an episode where it's like really relevant that they're a sponsor, because we're going to talk a lot about accountability. We're going to talk about the bar for excellence. We're going to talk about a lot of these things. And SoberLink is a tool that can help you get there. SoberLink is a breathalyzer that is disguised as it is the world's greatest accountability device that is disguised as an ordinary breathalyzer. But it's not really an ordinary breathalyzer. See, it's got facial recognition technology, military-grade facial recognition technology. So you can trust the person using it as a person that's supposed to be using it. It's also tamper-proof. You can't screw with this thing. The moment you do, it sends a signal to home base, and they know. Now they know, and they will call you out on it. There will be an alert that goes out. What's so amazing about it is that when you finally commit to this process of recovery, and whatever that looks like to you, SoberLink is a useful part of that for accountability, for support, and for transparency and visibility. Let's start with accountability. You set up a network of people that get notified every time you use this thing. So people know you can't hide anymore. You can't pretend. You can't bullshit people. You can't get by with your sneaky ways, your manipulation, where you used to tell people, oh, I'm going to have to work late today. But in truth, you were actually at the bar, or you stopped at the liquor store on the way home, and you drank in your truck, or whatever it might be. They're going to get alerted. You know, then you're going to have to use this thing, and it is going to keep you from using in those moments of weakness. It's really beneficial in that way. But on the other side, the flip side of having an accountability circle is having a support circle. You're going to have people that are pulling for you, supporting you, walking with you through this thing, not just doing it alone. Let's stop trying to do this alone. Let's recover out loud, and let's let other people know that we're trying to do this thing. Let's actually go all in, and let's commit. It's also about visibility and transparency. This is a gift that you give your loved ones, man. They're tired of looking for bottles. They're tired of arguing with you. They're tired of trying to walk up around your shoulder and see how your day was, when they're really just trying to smell your breath because they don't believe you anymore. They're sick of doing this. They just want the truth. And SoberLink gives them that. If you're as serious as you say you are, then what do you have to hide? What do you have to hide? Let's say that you do struggle. Well, then we just know that you need more support, and you need to really commit harder. You need to do something differently. You need to try a different path, whatever it is. And in some ways, it's scary because you also give them the proof they've been desperately wanting to know how serious you are and what a future looks like with you. This is it. Cards are on the table, man. Roll them. Let's see what we got. This is the moment. And SoberLink can help you rebuild trust if that's what you're really trying to do. Because every negative test is a deposit back into that bucket of trust. Trust is so easy to lose, and it is so hard to get back. But over time, you can do it with change behaviors and accountability, showing people what you're really about. I've got friends that have used these. I've watched other people, clients of SoberLink use these things, and it's a breath of fresh air for their spouses because they no longer have to wonder. They have the data right there in front of them, and it helps rebuild that trust. It's really hard to trust the boy that's cried wolf, but when you have data that supports it, you only have to trust the boy that's been crying wolf because the data says what the data says. And then you can start to work on real issues like being vulnerable and open and honest and talking about some of the shortcomings of your relationship and really start to solve these problems. You can get this other one out of the way and take care of that. And SoberLink's been on your side, even in moments when you're no longer considering a relationship. If you're just trying to make sure your kids are safe, they're going to be there for you because it's court admissible in all 50 states and in Canada. It's trusted by hundreds of thousands of people, judges, attorneys, courts. They know about these things and they are enforceable in your custody agreements. So if you're just trying to make sure your kids are safe, they are there for you in those moments. SoberLink, traditionally, you had the device itself, and then you had a monthly plan cost. And there's a lot of upfront costs. And a lot of times when there's addiction present, finances are not in the best of order. They recognize this, and so they've changed something about the way that they offer that's going to help you. No longer do you have to pay for a device upfront. You can just rent them. For as little as $19 a month, you can just rent the device. Sign up for a 1-year plan, which I recommend. That's what you need to get started. 1 year. 1 year is going to help you cement some really good habits. There's data that supports this as well. Give it a year and you get that $19 rate for that device. And then since you're an awesome listener of our show, just go to soberlink.com/wheels, like till the wheels fall off, soberlink.com/wheels, and they will send you a $100 gift card that you can use on that monthly plan. You can use it on your normal bills, Amazon, groceries, Tufo merch, whatever you want to spend it on. They're going to help you out just for being an awesome listener and using our link, soberlink.com/wheels. So if you're as serious as you say you are, get a SoberLink today and start rebuilding trust. While you're online, check out tufo.com. Tufo.com is where you can find out about everything that we offer. We've got merch like this recovery rock right here. Here, let's see if it'll focus quickly. Oh, come on. There we go. It's got our logo on the front. On the back, it says, "Thank you for being my rock." This is a really cool way to acknowledge the journey that your spouse or partner has walked with you through recovery. I got like a lot of recognition. People were telling me how proud of me they were. They were sending me messages, Facebook messages. They were always asking how I was doing. No one ever talked to Paige and asked her how she was doing and how she was dealing with all of this. This is your chance to acknowledge their journey. It's incredibly important. This is how our show started. This is what it's about. And I see orders come in all the time from guys that are acknowledging their spouse's journey. And I think what you guys are doing is awesome. It is truly awesome. I hope that you take this to heart and it means something to you. And it's not just this little token you give somebody, but it really means something to you. This lets someone know that they've been seen. And there's nothing like knowing that you've been seen by someone. That's huge. Wheelies also buy them for each other, which is really awesome. We had someone order like a whole bunch of these and ship them out all over the country. It's been amazing to watch that as well. Thank you for being my rock through this journey. Even if it wasn't my spouse, it was you, a close friend of yours. It's a really cool way to say, I see you, and you're doing it, with the show. You're helping support us as well. And there's different ways to do that. We've got new merch that's going to be coming out soon. Follow our social media accounts at @tufo_couple. And we'll announce when the merch goes live. It's been hell getting this stuff photographed and getting it in and correcting some of the errors we had in production and getting this stuff sourced. And I'm still working on, we call them beanies. I think in Canada they call them, is it toques or toques, I think? I don't know. One of our awesome wheelies in Vancouver corrected me on this, and now I forgot what she called them. Toboggans, the thing that goes on your head that keeps your head warm, like a head sock. We're working on those. But we've also got water bottles, shirts, hoodies on the way. Keep an eye out. You can support us that way. If you wanted to buy us a cup of coffee, you can support the show in that way, help with some of our expenses by just clicking the link in any of our social media profiles, and you can give as much or as little as you want. And for the record, you don't have to give us anything. We love you anyway. It doesn't matter. Just if you ever wanted to support the show, that's a way to do it. Tell other people about the show. Leave us a review. That's a free way that you can support our show. If finances are tight, we appreciate that more than you would ever know. It helps other people find the show, makes us more discoverable. If you're not already subscribed on YouTube, please do that and help us grow. Help us get this message out to more people that need to hear it. We've got an online program that we built called Independently Strong, which if you've ever wanted to know like how Paige got to where she is and how we really did this, this is the course for you. This is the program for you. It's 10 modules long. We built it alongside a licensed therapist, and it's really the journey of what it takes for a spouse to reclaim their identity. People oftentimes email us and they're like, "Hey, I am thinking about getting this course. Me and my husband are working through recovery. Things are getting better. Is this course for me?" We get messages that say, "Hey, I'm not really sure what's going to happen with my relationship. I don't know where things go from here. Is this course for me?" Or, "Hey, I'm currently split up. Maybe thinking about reconciling, but I'm not sure. Is this course for me?" Or, "Hey, I'm just trying to co-parent. Is this course for me?" The answer is yes to every single one of those, because the course has nothing to do with the status of your relationship and everything to do with you. When you've been in a relationship with someone who struggles with addiction, you have been over-functioning. So much to the extent that you've lost yourself. You've lost your identity. There used to be someone inside that knew where they stood. They knew what they stood for. They knew what they were about. And they're gone. And that's what people feel a lot of times when they find us, is that I just feel lost. I don't know what happened to me. I don't know who I am anymore. We help you reclaim you. That's what we do in the course. And it's amazing. We've got tons of students that work through this thing. We've got a private community of those students that are working through this deal that meet on Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Central. And Paige and I are often in those meetings. if not both of us, one of us most of the time, unless holidays or something else pops up, but we're usually there. And so you get access to us. You can email us during office hours. And we've also got a free version of this in our free online community that you can find out about on our website, twfo.com. It's a free Facebook community called Tufo Community, where thousands and thousands of listeners of the show connect every single day. And they can just vent sometimes. Sometimes you need support. Sometimes you need advice. Sometimes you need to know what other people did to get where they're at. You need feedback, whatever it might be. The community is there for you. And it's amazing. It is the best online community that exists for stuff like this, by far. By far. I've seen many of them. That one's the best. So if you're not in there, please come and join us. Come say what's up. Just come hang out. If you just want to lurk for a while, that's fine too. But come on over to the community. We would love to have you in there. I think that concludes announcements. As always, if I remember something, then I will circle back to it. I don't know why this one's been so hard for me today. I really don't. I have struggled with getting a concise and cohesive message out, and I've taken so many detours, and I've gotten upset. I've put down the microphone, and I walked in the other room for a while. This is literally taking me 10 hours to sit here. And having said all that, it's probably still not going to be the greatest thing I've ever made, even all the time that went into it. And I think that is true to our mission. When we started this show, it was just as much about creating content that I wish that we would have had access to when we were going through it as it was about anything. When it comes to growth and it comes to content that exists online, there's some really good stuff, but there's more really bad stuff. And when I say bad, I don't mean there's bad advice. I mean there's just a bunch of disingenuous advice. I think of the worst fucking app that exists on the face of the planet is LinkedIn. If you've ever spent more than 10 minutes on LinkedIn at a time, you have spent far more than I have. I can't stand that app. That app is full of people circle jerking each other, trying to sell each other things. That's all it is. Everything on there is disingenuous. No one's actually trying to connect for the right reasons. They're not offering support without some kind of catch. It's all just it's people trying to sell themselves. They're always self-promotion, out the wazoo, and I can't stand it. And I think a lot of stuff is like that too. When we started our show, we didn't have a program or anything like that. We didn't start this to sell things. We started this just to help people. That was what we really wanted to do. And that meant that it wasn't going to be super polished, and it wasn't going to be super proper, and it wasn't going to be super great. But if we stuck with it, we knew that it would get better over time. But it would always be one thing, and that's authentic. And that's us just being us and doing everything we can to help and being ourselves. And so as much as I would love for this message to be to hit, it's probably still going to come up short because we don't sit here and prep for hours. We don't read from AI. We don't do any of that shit. There's so many people who make content now, and there's just M dashes all over it. And that's a dead giveaway that they didn't put any thought into that. And it didn't come from their own experience. It came from something that they read or something they heard, and they thought it could get a lot of likes and drive engagement. And maybe there's a time and a place for that stuff, but for the most part, it's about what do you think? What do you believe? And put it out there. And if you're authentic about it, I think more than likely you're going to get feedback on it. That's really good. And you're going to help people the right way because people know when they're being sold, man. That's why I don't play around on LinkedIn. Everyone knows when they're being sold. You're naive if you think otherwise. Those people are in there for one purpose, and it's to sell you something, man. They really are. I don't care if you ever buy anything from us. If you want to, great. If you don't, great. Whatever. I hope that something that we say, something that we share can help you in some way. It can help maybe reframe some thought that you've had and help you along a different path that you wouldn't have ordinarily chosen. It can help you solve an argument. It can help you find clarity, whatever it might be. That's what I hope more than anything. It can help you do that. But I've been struggling to get this message across because I think it hits so many different areas of a growth journey. I talked about potential in one of the episodes that I recorded and deleted. I talked about procrastination. I talked about accountability. I talked about standards. And ultimately where I've landed on is standards. That's going to be the episode for today. Paige and I have got a really, really good one that we're going to record based on the other three, include also with standards, but this awesome kind of all-encompassing episode. But I really want to stick to standards. And I want to stick to why we shy away from hard work. And I think it has to do with standards. I shied away from hard work for the long time because I had gotten away with shit being easy. I had been able to kind of coast through life and get pretty much what I wanted doing the bare minimum. I know a lot of people that struggle with addiction that are the same way. It is amazing what people who struggle with addiction are able to accomplish doing the bare minimum most of the time. It's amazing. It really is. Like, it's insane how successful some people are not even trying. And that just goes to show, I think, the talent that so many people have that have addictions. I hope you know at this point that we are not a show that thinks that people who have addictions are faulty or broken or are weak or any of those things. It's actually quite the opposite. Like I mentioned in the open, they can oftentimes they are far more resilient than the average bear. They can persevere more than the average bear. They can work much harder and grind and go much longer than the average bear. But what keeps us from doing the things that are the most important? This is where we struggle. It's about being honest. This is about having integrity. It's about committing to a process. It's about allowing others to hold us accountable. It's about holding ourselves accountable. Those are the areas, I can't speak for everyone, but those are the areas that I struggled in the most, because I had gotten away with shit being easy. I was getting away with it. Like, why would I change it, right? And I've said this, and this may be unpopular, but I believe this, is that I don't think that we change until consequences dictate. And this is internal consequences, and sometimes it's external consequences. But generally, we don't change when shit's working. And working means different things for different people. But for me, it meant like shit stopped working when I was having to lie every single day about where I was and where our money was going, living two different lives. In lying that much, you had to keep up with like this life that you portrayed to people, like especially my wife, and this life that I was actually living. I had to remember what I said about where I was, and that became a huge toll. I had to live with this guilt that I wasn't living up to my potential, that I wasn't doing the things that I was supposed to be doing in life, that I had plans for my life at one time and I had abandoned them for this simple route that wasn't serving me, that I was harming my body, that I was harming people that I loved, that I was lying to people that I loved, and that I was hurting the people that I loved even more than I hurt myself. And it was a culmination of all those things, luckily one day, that finally got me to a point where I became like willing to be like, shit, I need to abandon everything I think I know and try something different. I just gotten so comfortable hiding in this like version of life that demanded nothing from me, nothing of real substance. And it wasn't because I couldn't do hard things. It was because doing the hard things meant that I had to abandon an old life that made everything so convenient. I think that's what it was really about. On that podcast, and when I was talking about what kept me out of recovery for so long, when I said that it was the fact that I was almost scared of succeeding, because I knew that once I set my mind to something, I could achieve it. But I was always looking for an out. I was always looking, in 12-step, they call it the easier, softer way, right? And I think what that means, though, is that we're always looking for an out that would allow us to go back to our old way of life without having to fully commit to a new one. It's like having one foot in and one foot out. And I was obsessed with finding that solution for a really long time. It didn't exist for me. I am an all in or an all out person. That's kind of the way I work. I am all in a relationship or I'm all out. I am all in a venture or I'm all out. I don't really do things half-assed very well. And that's just kind of the way I roll. And I think a lot of people kind of work this way. And so when it comes to commitment to recovery, a lot of people will say that they don't think that they can do it, that they're scared to fail. And I would challenge that and say that I think that's bullshit. I think you know that you could succeed. I just think that you're scared of what it would take in order to make it so. That's really what it is. I know that I can do it. I'm just not ready to give up the easier way of life that I've become accustomed to, that I would have to abandon in order to do this. And that's what commitment actually means. Like, to be truly committed. My guess and my challenge to you is that I bet that every time you've gone all in, you've succeeded. I bet you have. I bet you figured it out. I bet you figured it out every time. When you're backed into a corner, we figure shit out. That's the way it usually works. Have you ever heard the story about burning the boats? I'll do my best to paraphrase this because I don't know the whole story, like all the history, nor do I think it's that relevant. What I need you to know is that there was this Spanish, it wasn't an explorer, he was a conqueror, a conquistador named Cortez, a conqueror, right? So they would go to islands and they would basically take them over. They would just, indoctrinate the people that lived there. They would take all their things, kind of strip them of their culture and be like, you are Spanish now. regardless of what they were. But this is kind of the way things worked at one time in our history. There was this guy named Cortez that was doing this. And so he was sailing around, I think it was the Caribbean, and they were taking over island after island. But what they really had their heart set on was the Aztec Empire. They wanted to go conquer mainland Mexico. They wanted to land there, and they wanted to take it over. And whenever they left Spain, everyone's really gung-ho about this. This is kind of how it is whenever we start a venture. We're like, oh, this is going to be great. Everything's going to work out. And we kind of we're kind of naive in the sense that we don't quite understand yet what that work really looks like. And then as they get closer and closer and they start to have some of these more miniature battles on the way, Cortez and his men kind of start to see what it's going to take. And a lot of the men start to kind of rebel. They're like, I don't want any part of this, man. Like this is a suicide mission. Like we're not going to make it out of this deal. And Cortez is kind of watching the morale of his troops slowly fade over time. And he makes a decision. He doesn't tell the group, but whenever they land, there's a group of the men that want to turn back, and he orders them to burn the boats. He says, if we go home, we're going home on their boats. Our choices are we win or we die. That's it. There is no going back. He took away the only way they had to retreat. He took it away. It's no longer an option. We are committing because I know the only way that you're going to fight like your life depends on it is when we burn the boats. And so when I look at a venture like recovery or anything that you want to do in life, you want to be a great husband, you want to build a big business, you want to be the best father in the world, you have to burn the boats. You have to rid yourself of every bit of your old life that did not serve you. Forget about it. It doesn't serve you. Burn it. We're done. We're walking forward. We're not giving ourselves any options. And part of that is declaring, I am committing. I am committing. So many people are afraid to do that. We kind of half-ass this, or we privately in our own minds tell ourselves, I'm going to give this a shot, but we're really not that committed. And we're not going to recover out loud because that would mean that we have set a standard that I'm going to do this thing. And that also allows other people to hold us accountable. It becomes a sort of a dangerous venture. And so we try to recover quietly inside of our own minds alone for a very long period of time. And it doesn't work. And my guess is that if you're here, it hasn't worked for you many times. My guess is that if it has worked for you, you understand exactly what I'm saying. When we commit, we burn the boats. The only way to force yourself to move forward is to remove any chance of going back. And part of that is declaring, I'm going all in. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to do this thing. Whatever that means, I'm going all in. And in doing that, you have to be ready to abandon the parts of your old life that maybe you didn't exactly hate, but didn't serve you either. Like in recovery, they say it's like, oh, it's not a big deal. All you have to do is change everything about yourself. And we say that tongue in cheek, but it's true. You have to change everything about yourself. You have to change the way that you approach confrontation. You have to change the way that you approach fearful situations. You have to change the way that you approach your own mind and the texture of it and what you believe and don't believe. You have to really question your thoughts. You have to change your behaviors and do things in spite of the fact that you don't want to do them or that they're uncomfortable. And all that stuff goes out the window when we commit to a new way of life. Completely out the window. We have to become people that are open to hearing different perspectives and different ideas. And you have to become very humble. You have to have humility and practice it on a very regular basis. And that is anything but the way that I was living. I was living a life that was anything but those things. So when you commit, you have to burn the old life down. You have to burn the boats. You can't go back. I've been facing this with my career for quite some time. Like when we started the show, like we do want to help people. Like, don't get me wrong, but I would love to be able to help people at scale. And I would love to be able to help a ton of people. And I would love to be able to just commit to this full time. I would love to have enough sponsors that, that advertise on the show that allow us to do this full time. This is what I want to do for my life. I want to help people. That's what I want to do. And that was in the back of my mind when we started the show, but I was scared to go all in because going all in meant that I had to quit what was comfortable, which was my normal job that, I've built a business that's very successful and it's provided very well for us. And like, it would be crazy to burn that thing down and to burn the boats and not go back just so I can make this work. But I know that if I burned that boat, it would work. I know it would. I'm just not ready yet. And that's just me being honest. And I get it if you're not ready. And that's me saying I can see two of these things at the same time. I can see how we know what we should do and still be scared to do it. Now, I'm not talking about life or death. I'm talking about my job, right? A career endeavor. It's a little bit different. The stakes are lower there. Stakes are lower. And they could be high. We could lose everything, but I guess I could always go back in some ways. But when we burn the boats, like I would be me resigning and telling people I'm not coming back, and me committing to this thing and making, what we're trying to do here something that is a household name. And I know that we could do it. I know we could. And we'll talk about that some more when we talk about our potential episode and procrastination episode, which is going to be super fun. But when it comes to like burning the boats, I think that you do. When it comes to recovery, this really is life or death. This is life or death. You have no reason not to burn the boats. It's time to burn the boats. It's time to move forward. And for relationships, this kind of works the same way too. When we talk about living by your values and your standards, you have to burn the boats. When you commit, you burn down the shortcuts, you burn down the lies, you burn down the old habits, the fake confidence, the low bar that you've been keeping forever, the people who benefited from you being small, the identity that you've built around doing the bare minimum, all that stuff goes, every bit of it. And you are committing to a new way of life. And that is, it's more scary to me about the upkeep and the maintenance of it and the work that it takes than it is in whether or not I believe I could do it. I know I could do it. It's just, am I ready for that? And when it came to recovery, I was. When it comes to like other things, not so much. But the recovery one's kind of simple. Like, excuse me, water needed. When it comes to recovery, like really, what do you have to lose? Like, what do you have to lose? If there's a path that you have not tried yet, try it. Give it a shot and go all in on it. My guess is the first one that you go all in on will get you extraordinary results. Just pick one. Pick one of them. If you want to go the therapy route with medication-assisted treatment, go all in. If you want to work like 12 steps or something, go all in. If you want to get a sober guide or a sober coach, go all in. If you want to work refuge recovery or life ring or smart recovery, whatever it is that you want to do, if you want to commit to some process of your own, just make sure it's something that you talk about with people out loud. You hold yourself accountable. You know what the standard looks like and walk forward. Walk forward. It will work. I promise you it will work. Stop acting like it won't. You know it will. Just commit to it, man. But I want to talk about the power of high standards for a moment. I had very low standards for myself for a very long time. I very much enjoyed for a lot of the years of my life being the guy that was known for having great potential because it was comfortable and it was low risk. I think people knew, even like academically at a young age, I was smart, but my grades were always trash, absolute trash. I was scared to commit because if I committed and I showed you that I was capable of getting A's, then you would hold me accountable to that standard. And it was just easier for me not to pretend the standard didn't exist, that I was incapable. And this is a theme that I ran in different areas of my life. I did this with Paige when it came to like honesty or being open or committing to our relationship or being a committed father or, holding space. Like I would just tell her that I'm incapable. I am incapable. I can't do this. And I made her believe that shit. I sold that lie as hard as you can sell a lie. And it was a lie. It was not true. I was capable. I didn't feel like fucking doing it. I didn't feel like doing it. I didn't feel like committing to what it would take to do that. But I know that I was capable. Everyone's capable, okay? Short of some cognitive disabilities, you are capable. You just got to hold yourself to that standard. And man, I did this academically for a long time. Ultimately in college, I had to get my shit together and I graduated. I think I made 2 B's in 4 years. I had like a 3.9 GPA. I graduated like honors, magna cum laude, Beta Gamma Sigma Honor Society. It was like top like 2% of the class. I was like running study groups and stuff. And I was a kid that graduated high school with like a 1.1 or 1.2 GPA. I had to take like 2.5 years, not semesters, of remedial math just to get into like college algebra because I never went to school. I didn't care. And I had to take all the prereqs to get to work my way up. Like, let's start with addition and subtraction kind of thing. But I think that I'm very similar to a lot of people that I've come to know in recovery, that when we put our minds to something, man, we can do whatever we want to do. We can achieve everything. But I met this girl when I was 14 that you all know and love, Paige, who had incredibly high standards for herself and for everyone else in her orbit. Paige was an excellent student. She always told the truth. She was very honest and she was always authentic. She was always herself, unapologetically herself. Even when the world wanted her to be someone else, she couldn't help but just be herself. And I admired this about her. I think this is part of what drove me to her in the first place, was finding this person who was just so sweet and innocent and just genuine. She was just her. And I was like, there's something just amazingly attractive about that. There was nothing manipulative about it. She wasn't doing it to try to change me. It was like, this is my standard and you can meet it or you can get kindly the fuck out of my life. And that's kind of how she is. And I admired that. She has high standards for honesty, for integrity, for showing up, for being a good man, for being a present husband, for being a present father, for being accountable. And she has never relented on any of it. And here's the truth, is that it was a blessing, but at the time I fucking hated it. I hated it because her standards confronted everything that my old life allowed me to get away with. Every bit of it, man. And I credit her standards with the fact that I'm alive today. High standards breed high results. And I don't want spouses to hear that and think that your standards are what's going to save someone else's life, because they still have to be willing to meet that challenge. Like, I looked at it as a challenge. Like, you're challenging me. And when someone tells me I can't do something, I'm going to do it to spite you if I have to, but I'm going to do it. And if not for her high standards, I don't know if I'd be sitting here right now. I probably would have overdosed. I would have been tossed in jail. I would have taken my own life. I certainly wouldn't be married. I wouldn't have a relationship with my children. These things I know. I know that's the path I was headed down. I could see it clearly. It was happening, man. I credit her high standards with a lot of what's great about my life. It took me a long time to apply them on my own, but when I did, the results were amazing. High standards breed high results, man. And if your spouse has high standards, I know it pisses you off, but you should be so grateful for that. You should be so grateful they don't let you get away with shit. Because if they did, where would you be? Maybe it's more comfortable. Maybe you have less arguments, but where would you be? I think it's amazing that someone thinks that highly of you, that they're willing to hold you to that standard. That's love. That's love. So I don't think that you're scared of failing. I think that failure just means that you keep living the same way you've been living. And you've already survived that. Like, you know that version of you. Like, you lived in that house. You did those things. The real fear that a lot of men have is the fear of success. It's the fear of succeeding, because succeeding requires abandoning the old life that was comfortable, even if it was killing you. And now the bar has been raised. I didn't fear sobriety because I didn't think I could do it. I feared it because I knew I could. And if I could, then the bar went up. The bar rose. And if the bar rises, then suddenly I have to be capable. Suddenly people know now that I'm capable of being the man that they knew I could be. And I can get held accountable for being that man, not the one that I guess I settled for all those years ago. It's easier to pretend, it was for me anyway, that the bar was on the ground so that no one expected anything of me, including myself. It was easier. And that was the truth of it. And maybe that comes from a million different facets of low self-esteem and low self-worth, or a lack of belief, or any number of things. But we can talk about the why of it all. The why is not as important as the fact that I just need you to know that you can do this. You know it, and I know it. And have you ever really given it 100%? My guess is no, not fully. Because I don't think you'd be here if you had. I know that there's greatness inside you. I know that the people around you know that. I know that you can't deny it as much as you would like to pretend it's not there. Your family sees it. Your loved ones seen it. Your teachers have seen this. Your bosses, people that have worked for you or you've worked for, your friends, your partner. And you feel it. And I know that it terrifies you, but it's in there. And what are we going to do about it? And that's kind of the question that stings. So it's not that you're scared of effort. You're scared of becoming the man that you actually are. I know that sounds backwards, but that's been my experience with it. Now, spouses have their own version of this. There's a parallel here. We talked about standards. Spouses have their own version of this. They do the same thing, but in a different way. Instead of avoiding effort, spouses avoid expectations. They lower their standards so they don't have to risk enforcing them. Kind of the same thing I talked about earlier. Paige had this unrelenting standard that she never budged on. Your fear
is that if you relent, or if you have the standard and you state, this is my standard. Let me put this highlighter down. I'm quite grabbing that thing. If you set the standard and this is the bar, you have to hold people to that and you have to enforce it. And that's the scariest thing in the world, isn't it? Saying, I expect more than this means you now have to follow through when the expectation isn't met. You have to hold the line. You have to face conflict. You have to have confrontation. You have to be willing to deal with the consequences of that standard. And what I mean by consequences is leaving the people that don't meet it. And you know that that's true. It's a hard fact to face, but so many spouses have dropped the standard so they don't have to enforce it. If the standard's low enough, then you don't have to enforce it. But you and I both know that's not your standard. That's not what you want in your relationship. That's not what you want in your life. That's not what you want your kids exposed to. But you drop the standard. You drop the expectations so you don't have to enforce it. If you have to enforce it, there are consequences there. They're not going to like that. They're going to say, nope, not meeting it. And then that would lead to all these other issues that we struggle with. Abandonment, being alone, them leaving, breaking your heart, shattering the dream, the family that you wanted. It all comes crumbling down. It's the same psychological move that men make, but just flipped, I think. Men lower their effort to avoid being exposed, and spouses lower their expectations to avoid being abandoned, disappointed, or gaslit. Any number of those. And both groups end up stuck in the exact same trap, which is they protect themselves from short-term pain at the expense of long-term guaranteed suffering. That's the toss-up. And there is something here that I should make you aware of, and I wouldn't want to rob you of this, but there is something I've talked about called the inner citadel. It's what the Stoics refer to as the inner citadel. So I did this in recovery. I took this to heart. I've read Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius and Seneca are two of my favorites. But there's this idea that if you can't get what you want, then you have to teach yourself to want what you can get. And that is a roundabout way of saying that you just have to lower your expectations of the people around you so that you can survive. And I did this. I literally took acceptance as the answer to heart. It's tattooed on my freaking rib cage right now, right here. Acceptance is the answer. And that meant in all things. That meant that when I am disturbed by some person, place, or thing, there is a problem within me. It is not them, it is me. It is my failure to accept them as they are, the situation as it is, whatever it may be. That works to an extent. It doesn't work when people are violating you or harming you or abusing you. It doesn't work in those situations. But if you need a short-term way to survive, it can be useful. I just don't want you to live here forever because I'm telling you, it's no way to live long-term. It is not. Stoics weren't up against the same things you were up against. Different time. I think it's still useful logic. I think it's a beautiful way of looking at life, but I don't think it's practical in a marriage. But some people have to do this because not everyone can leave. Not everyone can leave. There are a million reasons that people can't leave. And so what we have to do sometimes is drop that standard and drop that expectation. I did this with someone in my life. I've talked to you guys about someone that, the reason I can talk about both sides of this is because I've been the spouse, but it was actually the son. And I've been the person who was addicted. I've been both, right? I've dealt with someone in my life that struggled with addiction and emotional immaturity and narcissistic type behaviors, basically my entire life. And in an effort to make peace, in an effort to find peace within myself, I had to stop holding them to the standard that I held myself to and everyone else. And I found out the hard way that that is not the way to go. In doing that, what I did was I allowed myself to be walked all over. I became a doormat for people. I came to accept things I shouldn't. I came to rationalize things that I probably should have just looked at clearly. I made excuses. I did any number of things that you've probably done as well in order to survive. I couldn't get what I wanted, so I had to teach myself to want what I could get, which was bare minimum. The bare minimum. The bar was on the floor. And I had to teach myself that that was okay. And it is not okay. It is not okay. It's okay to have high standards, guys. It's okay to hold yourself to those things. It's okay to hold others to those things and have others hold you to those. It is okay. Spouses fear, I guess, stepping into their power the same reason that men fear stepping into their potential. And it's because once you raise the bar, you can't pretend you didn't see what you saw. You can't unknow that truth. You cannot go back to tolerating the things that you once did. You can't. And this isn't about blame. This is the fact. This is the fact of the matter. This is what we do. This is the shared human fear of accountability, whether you're the one trying to grow or the one who's deciding what you can and cannot accept anymore. This is brutally simple to me. You are afraid of the effort. You are afraid of the pain. You are afraid of what it will require from you. And that fear makes sense because raising the bar is always going to cost you something. When you raise your bar, everyone else gets to raise theirs too. Your partner, your kids, your coworkers, even yourself, your future self gets to raise the bar. And that's the part we run from. It's not It's not the failure. Sorry, it's not the failure. It's the responsibility. It's the work that it takes. It's what the work demands that we become. And the truth that you cannot escape from is that you cannot keep living in the cheap comfort of potential. And you cannot keep choosing this easy version of life. You cannot keep pretending that you were meant for ground level effort when everything in you knows that you're capable of more. Yes, it is hard. Yes, it requires effort. Yes, it hurts to let go of some of those parts of us that we thought served us, but I'm just telling you to do it anyway. Raise the bar, man. Raise the bar. Raise the bar for yourself. Let others raise it for you. Let yourself be held to that standard and step into the demands that scare you. What's the alternative look like? We already know, but what could this look like? That's all I've got this week. It's Thanksgiving week, and I'm sending you all love to your families. I'm sending you guys all the support in the world. Just know that we are thinking of you, that we love you all, and that we hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. We hope that no matter what stage of this thing you're in, that you're able to find some gratitude and some peace and some tranquility for at least one day, right? Let's go all watch the Cowboys win. I hope. We'll see how that goes. Generally not well. If you're not a Cowboys fan, too bad. Too bad. You get to watch us anyway. I just hope everyone has an awesome day. Hope everyone has a great time. Until next time, I'm Matt, and I'll see you.